Welcome. In this video I'm going to be taking a look at this Revvstark Drywall Sander with dust collection. So this was provided to me by the distributor, but they're not compensating me for this video and they're not reviewing it before I post it. If you find this video helpful and you want to purchase one of these, I'll put a link to it in the description on Amazon, and if you use that link it helps me out a little bit and doesn't cost you anything extra. So this is 880 watts, it has a 2100 RPM no load speed, it's variable speed, has built-in light, dust collection. So let's get this open. Okay. First off, this is packaged pretty nicely. I opened this with a knife and I was trying to be very careful not to cut into it, but it had this extra piece of cardboard here too. And I can see I did cut into it just a little bit. So it looks like we have a carrying bag. Comes with sanding discs, the vacuum hose. Here's the sander. I'll set that aside. Instruction manual and tools. We have the vacuum bag and we have glasses and gloves. I think that's everything. So here we have the sander itself. It looks like this pivots here and locks. Okay, so I'll pull this lever back until it hooks. Then I'll press down, that'll lock it in place. So here we have the motor, and this articulates in multiple directions. We have the hook and loop pad here, and we have bristles around the perimeter to help capture the dust. And then we have an LED light strip ring around the whole head. Here's the dust collection hose here. This is a vacuum adjustment, and it looks like this front part comes off. So we'll take a look at the manual in a second. Then we have the clamp, we have foam here, and we have this wand that will go in the back. But let's take a look at the manual before we get too much further into this. So this does come with some different tools and some different parts, some gaskets and such. Also has a warranty card. So I'm not going to cover everything in the manual. You'll want to read through it on your own. This shows lots of things for proper usage. This shows the different parts. We also have the specs up here. So this has 5 speeds. So the sanding pad dimensions is about 8.5 inches. The sandpaper dimensions is 9 inches. Number of sanding holes is 10. Power tool length is 49.21 to 98.03 inches. So it's adjustable. This shows the different parts. So we have the dust collection bag, the dust hose, the extension rod, and then for the accessories we have sandpaper. It comes with 12 pieces. And these are the sizes. We have 100, 120, 150, 180, 240. It looks like there's 2 each of those, and there's 2 180 grids. 2 carbon brushes, 3 metal gaskets, and 2 sealing rings. Then we have the different tools. It says if you're working on the machine, make sure it's unplugged. This talks about the folding function. So I demonstrated how to unfold the head and secure it. The extension goes in the back of the handle. It has a clamp. Here it says place a sealing ring into the fixture on the head of the handle and plug one end of the dust hose all the way into the end. Then snap a locking cap on and make sure the buckle is fully engaged into the groove of the fixture. So that tells how to attach the hose. This says before sanding the ceiling, connect the spring at the end of the bracket to the sanding head and it will make it work easier. It says a portion of the outer edge of the sanding head is removable, allowing the edge of the sandpaper to be exposed to grind corners and adjacent edges that the sandpaper bottom cannot reach. And then it has the suction adjustment that I showed earlier. So this shows speed control wheel, lock on switch, LED light switch on or off, and the switch button. So you can just hold the switch down or you can press the lock on switch to keep it on. This talks about the sanding pad. It says the height of the sanding pad will gradually decrease due to wear. There are 2 ways to solve this problem. One is to use the metal gaskets included in the accessories to raise the height of the sanding pad. It says you can also just replace the old sanding pad. This talks about replacing the carbon brushes. And here we have some other notes on the back side. So it mentioned a spring. I see that right here. It's hooked on the back side. So I'll unhook that. And if we look up, that's going to attach up here. Like so. So that's going to give some spring tension here. So it looks like that is optional. We can take that off and wrap it around and hook it on the bottom there. Let's take a look at the extension. It's a little hard to show here on my bench, but I have better lighting here. So here we have the handle. We have that switch. We can lock that on. We can adjust the speed here. And this is to turn the light on or off. So we'll insert the extension wand. So we want this on the same side as this. We'll open up the cam and we'll slide this in. To wiggle it a little bit to get it in there. There we go. And it has this max pull-out line there because once it gets past here, it's easier to move in and out. So we can slide this in all the way now and lock it down, and this will be the shortest mode. So we have this handle here, and we have the handle over here. So it comes with these foam gaskets to go on the end here, but I feel in here there's already one there. So this is the hose. Looks like the 2 ends are symmetrical, so we can hook either one up to the sander itself and the other one to the bag. So I'll slide this in here, and I'll clip it in place. Okay, that seems to be in there. Has that foam gasket in there to provide a seal. Now the other end will hook up to the vac. So it's not showing a foam gasket in here. Let's see how this fits. That is pretty tight. Okay, so that's connected to the foam bag. To open it, we can slide this, and it gives us an opening to empty it. So now I'll slide this back on to close it back up. There we go. And this has a strap on it so you can wrap it around your shoulder. So here's the cord. They rated this at 880 watts. So if you plug this into an extension cord, you'd want to make sure it's a very beefy extension cord, probably something like a 12 gauge. So it's a 2-prong plug. Let's plug this in. And the sanding head is off to the right. It's not touching anything, so I'll pull the trigger. We'll see if this runs. It definitely ran. Let's test out the LED light. So you can see it has that light ring around it. So I think this is just about ready to go. Let's take a look at the accessory pouch. So here we have glasses, gloves, and earplugs. So you can use these if you don't already have them, or you can just use your own. And here are the sanding pads. So typically when you're sanding, you'll start with the higher grits, and then you'll finish off with the lower grits. So here we have the 120, 180, 150, 240, 100, and then we have these sanding screens. It looks like those are 180. So let me grab the highest grit, which I think was 100 here. So to install this, I want to make sure, let's pull this plug out. I line up the holes with the holes in the sanding pad. Like so. So to test this out, I'm going to be removing some popcorn from a ceiling. To the best of my knowledge, this popcorn was installed around the 1990s, and it's starting to come off in places, so I just want to remove it. And this is in my garage. So this does have dust collection, but no sander is going to capture 100% of the dust. So in a garage, I'll keep the door open. If this was in a house, you might want to seal it off from the rest of the house and put a fan in a window or other things. I'm not going to cover all that in this video, but you can do your own research. So let's head out to the garage and test this out. Okay, so I'm out here at my garage, and here we have the popcorn ceiling. So I'm going to use the Revvstark sander to knock that down. So the ceiling height on this is around, I think, 8.5 feet or so. So I think I'll try and shoot some of this kind of zoomed in and then some from a distance with a wide angle. Okay, so I did a little sanding, and there's a little bit of a learning curve here, as you can imagine. So when you place it on the surface, you want to make sure it's very even, so it's not cutting in on one side while there's a gap on the other. Now for the extension handle, I have it probably at about halfway. I'll back the camera out for a wider shot now. So here's a closer shot of the ceiling where I've been sanding it. And I've only been sanding with the 100 grit, but it's very, very smooth. As I was editing this, I realized I didn't get a good shot of the vacuum bag inflating. So I'm just going to turn on real quick and we can see what that looks like. So that's the Revvstark Drywall Sander with vacuum. As I mentioned earlier, it was a little tricky to operate the first time I touched it to the ceiling, but it didn't take long for me to get a feel for it. And the more I use it, the better I'll get at it. I think one thing that made it a lot easier was having that LED light on the sander. When I had it at the wrong angle, you could see it kind of throwing dust out, and that light would illuminate it. So I definitely knew that I needed to make an adjustment. If it was darker, it might not be as easy to tell when you're holding it flat against the ceiling. So to remove this popcorn, I could use this 100 grit pad, and then I could maybe do a skim coat over the whole ceiling, and then I could sand it down smooth with the other pads. Now I felt the bottom of the vacuum bag, and it is collecting dust in there. You can kind of see over to the side here that there is dust on the floor. So this is not an absolutely dust-free process, but I think this is going to produce a lot less dust than if you're just sanding without the vacuum. So in my garage, I can open the door, but if you're in a house, I think a fan in a window or some other thing would be helpful, and you'll want to put plastic down and such. But again, I'm not going to cover all the ins and outs of that. But I just wanted to let you know there's going to be dust with something like this, but hopefully a lot less than without the vacuum. Now it did have some weight to it. Since I don't do this every day, I'm guessing I would fatigue faster than a professional might. And if you don't have a lot of strength in your arms, then this may not be the best option for you. Because it's not super heavy, but if you're holding it for, say, a half hour, 45 minutes, an hour, it could start to get heavy. So in my case, I would use it and then take a break every once in a while, or maybe split the work up within a couple days if I were getting tired. But it's nothing I couldn't handle. And I'm thinking most people of average fitness could be able to handle this also. So that's all I'm going to cover in this video. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. If you liked this video, please click like. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I'd appreciate if you could do that. And thanks for watching. Until next time, goodbye.